Hello, my dear friend, and welcome to the History Question Channel, a place where dreams and truths drift together through the deep layers of Earth's time. Tonight, we will let go, close our eyes, and listen as our planet whispers its memories. Memories of civilizations that once flourished long before we called ourselves modern humans. Perhaps they were cities now sleeping beneath the sea, or maybe just waves of memory, still echoing through the stones, where dreams turn to minerals and minerals turn to stardust. We're not here to chase answers, but to learn how to listen, softly, with the heart that still remembers. Because sometimes the past doesn't ask to be understood. It only wishes to be remembered. And if this voice brings you a little peace, if you'd like to keep wandering with me through these quiet meditations of time, then gently press subscribe and leave a like. As a greeting to the ancient souls who came before, so that we may meet again in the next journey through the living memory of the earth. Everything begins with silence. Not an empty silence, but a silence full of whispers waiting to be heard. Deep beneath the surface of the earth, where no sunlight ever reaches, magnetic stones still hold faint traces of an ancient pulse, a remnant of a world that had no name. Scientists call it a magnetic anomaly. The storyteller calls it a breath that still lingers, the last exhale of those who came before us. Inside the belly of the planet, minerals remember. Each layer of rock, each crystal, records the orientation of Earth's magnetic field at the moment it cooled. It is, in a way, the handwriting of time itself. When modern instruments measure these layers, they find regions where the magnetic flow twists, as if the Earth's own compass had been rewritten. Kinetic energy without a cause, direction without a storm. Almost as if something or someone had once touched the planet deeply enough to change its heartbeat. Was it an ancient technology we've long forgotten? Or perhaps the Earth itself, still dreaming of a civilization it once nurtured? We often think of our planet as a cold rock adrift in space. But if you listen long enough, you'll hear it breathing. Volcanoes are its pulse. Tectonic plates, its muscles shifting in sleep, and the magnetic field, its quiet inhale and exhale. When the field strengthens, the planet inhales. When it weakens, it exhales. Somewhere between those two breaths, life emerges, disappears, and reawakens, as if guided by a rhythm older than biology. Perhaps the ancients felt this heartbeat directly. Perhaps they didn't study nature, they belonged to it. To them, everything had spirit: stone, wind, light, and shadow. They didn't separate physics from the soul, because to understand was to listen. From South Africa to Greenland, from the Siberian basin to the red deserts of Australia, geophysicists have mapped hundreds of magnetic distortions that make no geological sense. In some regions, the field reverses as though reprogrammed. No meteorite, no lava, just a pattern that shouldn't exist, a scar written into the crust. And strangely, many of these zones align with ancient architectural sites: Baalbek, Giza, Pumapunku, each one marked by stones too massive, cuts too precise, angles too deliberate to be dismissed as chance. Coincidence? Maybe. But if coincidence is just memory disguised as randomness, then perhaps the planet is trying to tell us something, a chapter of its own story, long erased from our human records. Every stone has a magnetic signature, a direction frozen in time. It's like a secret letter sealed in mineral form. When scientists decode it, they discover not just chemistry, but the quiet rhythm of an event that once was. In the Pilbara Craton of Australia, rocks 2 billion years old show signs of intense magnetic distortion, not caused by natural heat, but something stronger, something that melted atomic boundaries without fire. There's no volcanic residue, no impact crater, just a pulse, a flash that rewrote the magnetism of a continent. Was it a solar storm, a cosmic accident, or the echo of a technology now lost to myth? The Earth, it seems, has been touched before, and that touch still hums through the ground beneath our feet. If you could hear the magnetic waves themselves, they would sound like a song, a slow, resonant hum weaving through the crust, vibrating through mountains and oceans alike. Perhaps the ancients knew this. Perhaps their monuments were not merely temples but instruments, built to sing in harmony with the Earth's electromagnetic breath. They carved stone not to dominate it, but to tune it. Every pillar, every alignment, was a verse in a song that the planet could remember. That song is still playing, but now we can only detect it through sensors, no longer through our bones. It is the last lullaby of a people who once sang with the wind. Lie down for a moment. Feel the floor beneath you. That subtle vibration, the faint tremor that you might mistake for silence. It's the heartbeat of the world. The Earth is never still. It hums constantly, a quiet microseism caused by the dance between ocean and sky, between gravity and the pull of the moon. What if there once existed a civilization that didn't just hear this hum, but lived in rhythm with it? Who didn't seek to change the world, only to breathe with it? They may not have had machines. They had resonance. And resonance is its own kind of intelligence. Not the first, but the ones remembered. It isn't a poetic metaphor. It is a scientific possibility. Geneticists speak of epigenetic memory, the body remembering traumas and conditions across generations. But could the planet also remember? Could our minds, magnetic in their own way, synchronize with the field that once carried those memories? When you walk upon ancient ground and feel an inexplicable calm or sorrow, perhaps it is not imagination, perhaps it is recognition. You have been here before, not as a person, but as a frequency in the greater song of the Earth. Modern science is slowly rediscovering this connection. Brainwaves in the geomagnetic field move in similar frequencies. When the Earth's field wavers, humans dream more vividly. Prophetic dreams, collective visions, surges of emotion, all seem to rise during magnetic storms. What if those aren't coincidences, but echoes? What if the ancient builders, the lost architects of stone, knew how to align themselves with this rhythm? Maybe they didn't disappear. They simply merged into the planet's dream, becoming part of its subconscious. One day, when the frequency is right, that memory may awaken in us again. Skeptics ask, if such a civilization existed, where are the remains? But perhaps they left a different kind of legacy, one that cannot be seen, only felt. Not carved in stone, but woven into energy. Not built upon land, but within the magnetic fabric of reality itself. Like a song sung in an empty room, whose echo lingers even after silence returns, the Earth carries those echoes still. Every anomaly, every unexplained vibration, is a verse of that ancient hymn. When you look at an ancient rock, don't see just age and erosion. See memory, see the pulse of something vast that once was, and still is, beneath all our noise. Nothing truly vanishes in this universe. Energy only transforms, and memory too has its own way of surviving. If Earth is a living body, then we are its newest heartbeat, formed from its dust, yet carrying the rhythm of its earliest song. At night, when the world grows still and your heartbeat slows to match the pulse of the soil, remember this: we are not the first to walk this path. We are the ones being remembered. And if this thought brings a quiet warmth to your heart, let it stay. Let it ripple. Leave a soft mark, a like, a subscription, a tiny gesture of presence in this sea of time, so that the next time the earth whispers beneath the stone, we'll still be here, listening together, because the planet never forgets. There are memories that do not live in books. They live beneath the sea, where light forgets to reach and silence hums with the slow pulse of time. If the first chapter was the whisper of stone, this one is the voice of water. A liquid hymn carrying the memory of cities that once breathed and sank gently, as if the planet exhaled and forgot to inhale again. The ocean is not empty. It is a library written in sand and salt. Each layer of sediment is a page, each grain a syllable, recording the moment when land became sea and civilization became myth. Long before Atlantis became a legend of longing, real cities had already disappeared beneath the waves. Not metaphors, not fantasies, but the remnants of places that once glimmered in sunlight, their streets alive with footsteps and laughter, until one day the tide rose and never fell again. Yonaguni in Japan, Dwarka in India, Heraklion off the coast of Egypt. 3 names, 3 faint lanterns still burning underwater, their flames trembling with the memory of those who built them. In the far waters of Japan's southern islands, a diver once descended into a current so clear it felt like glass. There, beneath 40 meters of blue silence, he found a mountain that was not a mountain. Step-like terraces, flat platforms, angles too perfect for coincidence. For a moment, it looked as if a temple lay there, sleeping beneath centuries of coral and time. Even in the flicker of artificial light, you could feel the geometry breathing, patient, deliberate, ancient. Was it nature, or the work of forgotten hands? The arguments have lasted decades, but perhaps the beauty of Yonaguni lies in that uncertainty. In the space between erosion and intention, between the logic of science and the silence of the deep. Down there, logic dissolves like salt, and what remains is wonder. Maybe the sea isn't hiding anything from us. Maybe it's protecting a memory not yet ready to be understood. Far west, across another ocean where the waves of the Arabian Sea kiss the coast of Gujarat, lies the ghost of Dwarka. The city of gates, once sung of in Sanskrit verses, believed by many to be the dwelling place of Lord Krishna himself. For centuries it was myth, a golden city swallowed by divine floodwaters, until the late 20th century, when sonar scans began to reveal outlines beneath the silt. Walls, steps, grid-like roads, pottery. Carbon dating placed them thousands of years before any known city in India. Suddenly, myth had a shadow. And that shadow was real. Divers described columns overgrown with coral, stone anchors as big as men, and stairways descending into darkness. It was as if Dwarka had not drowned, but simply shifted realms, from air to water, from memory to dream. Scientists call it underwater archaeology, but it feels more like resurrection. Each fragment lifted from the seabed is a breath returning to lungs that had forgotten how to breathe. Off the coast of Egypt, another name drifts through the Mediterranean. Heraklion, the lost harbor city gateway to the Nile. For centuries, it was a rumor, a name whispered in Greek texts, dismissed as myth by scholars who wanted facts. Then, in 2000, a team of divers found colossal statues buried in silt, faces still serene, arms outstretched as if in prayer. Columns, inscriptions, temple floors, everything frozen mid-motion, as if the sea had paused time, preserving not destruction but surrender. The weight of civilization, the weight of belief, all settling into silence. The water doesn't destroy, it erases gently, layer by layer, until only memory remains. Science explains these drownings through tectonic shifts, rising seas, the slow breathing of a restless planet. Continents move, climates change, and the boundary between land and ocean is never fixed. Only borrowed, but there's something more subtle in these ruins, something almost tender. Perhaps these cities were not lost to catastrophe, but returned to the womb of the world that created them. The sea, after all, was our first mother. And sometimes, mothers take their children back into their arms when the noise of the surface becomes too loud. Maybe the drowning of cities isn't tragedy, but a homecoming. Listen closely, and you can almost hear them. The slow creak of stone adjusting to the weight of water. The hush of currents brushing past old stairways. Fish weaving through temples, their scales glinting like forgotten prayers. These are not ruins. They are lullabies, each one still singing quietly in a language older than words. And what does this mean for us, who live above the tide, who walk on continents we call permanent? It means we are only guests here, temporary residents in a cycle far larger than ourselves. The earth rises and falls, inhales and exhales, and every civilization, no matter how proud, is just a ripple in that breath. We build, we bloom, we vanish, but stone remembers. Water remembers, even when we do not. When you stand at the edge of the sea, look beyond the horizon. Try to imagine the invisible streets beneath you, the homes now visited only by currents and light. Imagine children once running through them, merchants calling from docks, fires glowing at twilight, and then silence. The sound of rising waves, the slow surrender of everything to water. It is not the end, it is transformation. Because the ocean does not forget. It simply keeps what the land can no longer hold. So tonight, as you listen to this story, let the rhythm of the sea become your own breathing. Inhale with the tide, exhale with the current. And remember, we too are temporary shapes above the surface. One day our cities will sink, our names will fade, but perhaps like Yonaguni, Dwarka, and Heraklion, our echoes will remain. Buried under waves, cradled by time, whispering softly, nothing is lost, only remembered differently. When the sea finally grew quiet and the cities sank into their blue sleep, the earth began to dream again. The waves carried the memory of what had been, and the stones, those patient witnesses of time, kept something even stranger. Heat, trapped deep within their skin. It is said that memory can live in sound, in rhythm, in salt. But what if memory could live in light? What if the earth itself once glowed from within, lit not by fire, but by something purer, more dangerous, more divine? Across the world, scattered like fragments of a forgotten constellation, there are stones that have melted. Not by lava, not by the hand of man, but by a kind of fire that should not exist. In Scotland, in India, in Turkey, and even high in the Andes, there are walls and fortresses whose surfaces have fused into glass, smooth, shining, crystalline, as if the rock itself had softened under a sun too close to touch. Scientists call this phenomenon vitrification, a process so intense it requires heat of more than 1,600 degrees Celsius, a temperature that even modern furnaces struggle to sustain in the open air. But these ruins are thousands of years old, and they bear no trace of chimneys, no furnaces, no technology to match the scars they carry. Only silence and glass. The first explorers who found them thought it must have been lightning. Others said volcanic bursts, meteor impacts, or perhaps the fires of siege. But none of those theories fit the pattern. For these burned stones appear on mountaintops, in symmetrical walls, in rings that once enclosed sacred spaces. It was as if the fire had chosen its shape, as if the light itself had built something, then burned itself away, leaving only a memory of its brilliance. When we look at these ruins, we tend to see destruction. But maybe what we are seeing is the moment of ascension. The instant when a civilization, having reached its peak of knowledge, touched a frequency too bright for matter to hold. There's a strange beauty in that thought, that perhaps somewhere in the deep corridors of prehistory, someone mastered a light so pure that it consumed even its creators. Not a weapon, not rage, but an act of transcendence. A civilization that burned its way out of visibility, leaving only the fingerprints of radiance on stone. Scientists have measured traces of radiation in some of these vitrified ruins. In parts of Rajasthan, India, sand still holds isotopic scars similar to those found after nuclear events. Yet there are no craters, no signs of modern warfare, no stories in the oral tradition describing thunder from the sky. Only myths of gods who wielded light as a tool of both creation and destruction. Of chariots glowing like suns, of cities that vanished in flashes of brilliance. We call these myths today. But myth sometimes is memory spoken in the language of dreams. Perhaps this light was never technological. Perhaps it was spiritual, the kind of radiance that comes not from devices, but from awareness. When monks meditate long enough, their brainwaves release measurable electromagnetic fields. When a heart beats in perfect coherence with breath, its rhythm sends ripples through the nervous system, aligning the body with Earth's Schumann resonance. Energy, frequency, vibration. Three words that once belonged to mystics and now belong to physics. Maybe the ancients understood light not as photons, but as consciousness itself. Maybe they learned to shape it, to store it, to weave it into their monuments until stone began to glow. Imagine a night thousands of years ago. A sky heavy with stars, a city built of quartz and granite, stones humming softly as if alive. People walking through corridors lit not by fire, but by resonance, light drawn from the earth itself. No smoke, no flame, only a glow, like the inside of a pearl. That city might not have needed torches. It might have breathed with the stars, its light synchronized with the rhythm of the cosmos. And then perhaps one night, the resonance became too strong, the song too perfect. And the light consumed everything, not in violence, but in fulfillment. A civilization that disappeared not into ruin, but into radiance. We often think of progress as ascent, as a climb toward illumination. But maybe illumination is not something to reach, it is something to survive. The stones tell us what words cannot, that light can be too much, that brilliance can devour what it touches, that wisdom, when untempered by humility, can turn from revelation to flame. Perhaps the ancients who played with light weren't destroyed by accident. They transcended. Their cities turned to glass, their bodies to dust, their knowledge to silence. And that silence, is what we now call mystery. Modern archaeologists continue to measure, to test, to explain, and they should, because every shard of fused stone is a dialogue between worlds, the measurable and the miraculous. Science gives us the data, but it is wonder that gives us meaning. In the end, these two are not enemies. Science is the body of truth. Wonder is its soul. And somewhere between them lies the heart of the story. That we once touched something infinite and left behind the shimmer of that touch. At night, when you see lightning flash across a storm, remember those glassy ruins. The earth remembers light differently than we do. To us, it's a flash. To the planet, it's a scar. And yet that scar glows. Maybe that is what the ancients discovered. That light never really dies. It transforms. It hides inside matter, waiting for someone, someday, to feel its warmth again. So if you ever hold a piece of stone that gleams faintly under the sun, know that you're touching more than rock. You're holding a frozen moment, when the world itself remembered how to shine. Maybe those who came before us were not erased by disaster, but chosen by the light they loved too much to contain. They became what they worshipped. They vanished into the brilliance they sought. Perhaps that is the oldest lesson written in the skin of the earth, that enlightenment is both gift and fire. And so the story ends softly, with no explosion, no ruin, only a whisper, traveling through time and stone. Once, we were bright enough to burn. The story of light fades, and what remains is warmth, a faint pulse still trembling through the bones of the world. The fires of forgotten civilizations have long gone cold, yet the earth still holds their echo, sealed within its skin. Because nothing that ever touched this planet truly vanishes. It settles, it sinks. Then the earth, like a body, like a dream, remembers. Geologists call it planetary memory, the idea that soil and stone preserve the imprints of things long extinct. Not fossils, not ruins, but patterns of heat, pressure, and energy left behind by events that the human story has no record of. Every layer of rock is a page of memory, every mineral a neuron. Together they form a vast, slow mind, an intelligence that stretches back billions of years, thinking not in seconds, but in continents. When scientists drill core samples, they are, in a sense, reading the diary of the Earth. Each line of sediment tells a story: a firestorm, a flood, a magnetic flip, a silence. But some entries don't match any known chapter of human history. They speak of heat too great for volcanoes, of materials melted without a cause, of metallic residues and geometric scars that belong to no natural rhythm of the planet. It's as if the Earth has buried evidence of a dream it once had, a dream it's still protecting. To speak of a planet's memory is to enter a strange intimacy, because it means that everything we've ever done, every war, every step, every word whispered into soil, is absorbed, metabolized, remembered. The Earth doesn't judge, it records, it keeps. It remembers the first raindrop that cooled its crust, the first root that pierced stone, the first footprint pressed into ancient mud. And perhaps, too, it remembers the fire that once turned cities to glass. In that way, the Earth is the oldest witness. Silent, patient, utterly awake. We think of memory as something fragile, a pattern in the brain, gone when the mind fades. But what if memory is the fabric of reality itself? What if time doesn't erase but simply folds, so that everything that ever was still hums beneath the surface, waiting for the right vibration to awaken it? Scientists now know that even quartz crystals carry atomic alignments that can store information, They can hold data, frequency, resonance, as if matter itself were a kind of consciousness. If so, then the Earth is not just alive. It's sentient in a way we've forgotten how to perceive. Sometimes, in the quiet after an earthquake, in the low hum of a volcano, or in the magnetic murmur that dances at the poles, you can almost feel it. The planet thinking, not with words, with waves, with pressure and heat, with shifting tectonic plates, and the slow rhythm of tides drawn by the moon. Every pulse, every tremor is the Earth remembering how to breathe. There are layers deep below us that still glow faintly with the residue of unknown heat, a signal older than ice, older than man. Some scientists believe it was caused by cosmic radiation, others by ancient impacts. But there are those who wonder if something once lived down there beneath the crust, not biological, but radiant. A civilization of energy that burned too bright and left only its fingerprints in the rock. When geologists read these signals, they call them thermal anomalies. Yet to the poetic mind, they sound like the heartbeat of a ghost. Imagine, for a moment, that the Earth dreams just as we do. That volcanoes are its memories resurfacing, mountains its slow thoughts, rivers the bloodstream through which it replays the past. When glaciers move, they carve not destruction, but recollection, etching valleys like wrinkles on an ancient face. When forests grow, they are the Earth inhaling. When deserts expand, it is the Earth forgetting, making space to remember anew. And when species vanish, perhaps it is not tragedy, but transition, a shedding of old skin so that the dream may change shape. In this way, every fossil, every mineral vein, every spark of gold is a word in the language of planetary memory. We mine them, melt them, sell them, but rarely do we pause to listen. The truth is, the Earth has been keeping secrets for us, not to hide them, but to keep them safe until we're ready to understand. When we find vitrified ruins, when we uncover radioactive stones or magnetic anomalies, we call them mysteries. But maybe they're reminders, notes the planet left for its future inhabitants. Maybe Earth doesn't want us to start over. Maybe it wants us to remember. And yet, it's a delicate balance. For the more we dig, the more we risk erasing the very memory we seek to uncover. Our machines scar the crust. Our noise drowns the quiet frequencies where the planet whispers to itself. It is a strange irony. We've learned to read the Earth, but we've forgotten how to listen to it. Listening requires stillness, humility, a kind of surrender. The willingness to believe that the ground beneath us is not dead matter, but a living archive. There are stories carved into bedrock that no language can translate. Only silence can, only reverence. Sometimes, standing in a desert at night, when the wind stops and the stars feel impossibly close, you can sense it. The weight of all that has been, pressing softly against the present. You are standing on billions of years of memory, and somehow it remembers you. Because you too are made of that same stone, that same dust, that same electric hum that once burned within the Earth's molten heart. You are part of its recollection, and through you, the planet continues to dream. Perhaps this is what we've been missing all along. The Earth does not need us to exist, but maybe it needs us to remember for it, to become its consciousness, its voice, its reflection, its bridge between silence and understanding. For a planet without memory cannot dream, and a species without memory cannot evolve. We are the remembering organ of the world. Through our curiosity, our stories, our science, the earth rediscovers itself. Each time we wonder, each time we kneel to touch the soil and whisper, "What happened here?" the planet stirs and smiles and dreams again. So when the wind brushes across your face, or when thunder rolls far in the distance, think of it as the earth speaking softly to you. Not warning, not anger, just memory. And when you walk, remember that you are walking on a living mind, a vast, slow intelligence that carries the weight of all that ever was. We belong to that memory. We are its most recent chapter, its newest thought. And one day, when our voices fade into soil and stone, the earth will remember us too, not as conquerors or caretakers, but as part of its endless, dreaming self. Because the truth is simple, and it hums quietly beneath every heartbeat. This planet doesn't need people to live, but it needs memory to keep dreaming. The earth remembers. It remembers the heat of vanished light, the weight of ancient seas, and the voices of cities now dissolved into coral and dust. And then, it remembers the builders, those who shaped stone as if sculpting the bones of time itself. Their work still stands, massive and silent, defying decay, defying explanation. Monuments not merely of power, but of purpose. Across the planet, the same question echoes in stone. Who built these things? And perhaps more hauntingly, why did they stop? At Baalbek in Lebanon lies the Trilithon, 3 stones so vast that each weighs more than 800 tons. Cut with impossible precision, stacked with a grace that mocks our modern cranes. The air around them hums with weight and wonder, as if time itself has slowed to listen. In Egypt, the Great Pyramid rises from the desert like the frozen breath of eternity. Its angles align with the stars, its base with the curvature of the earth. It is not a tomb, not entirely. It feels more like a machine for memory, a device for harmonizing the planet's pulse with the rhythm of the heavens. And in the high altitudes of Bolivia, Pumapunku lies scattered like a dream unassembled. Blocks of andesite, sharp as laser cuts, corners carved to perfection, holes drilled with a symmetry that mocks primitive tools. Some weigh more than 30 tons, yet fit together like pieces of crystal geometry. Each site whispers the same paradox. We know how to measure them, but we do not know how to feel them. Modern science explains with words like ramp, pulley, lever. But even the most generous equations stumble in the face of such magnitude. To move these stones would require not just force, but intention. A will so calm, so focused that gravity itself seems to have cooperated. Some scholars speak of lost machines, others of sound, vibrations that could lift and shape stone through resonance and frequency. And though these theories sound mystical, modern physics has begun to circle back. We now know sound can levitate objects in microgravity, that vibration alters matter at its atomic core. Perhaps the ancients were not primitive at all. Perhaps they listened to the language of the world and found harmony where we found difficulty. It is easy to ask who built them. It is harder to ask why they stopped. Maybe these civilizations didn't collapse. Maybe they simply finished. Perhaps they reached the end of a cycle. A realization that mastery over matter was not the same as wisdom. So they left their monuments behind, not as warnings, but as mirrors. We look at them now and see our own reflection, the desire to build higher, faster, greater. Yet we rarely ask the question their silence suggests. At what point does creation become excess? At what moment does knowledge turn back upon itself and decide to rest? Maybe that's what the builders understood. that to stop is not to fail, but to listen. There's a stillness that surrounds these ruins, an atmosphere almost alive. If you stand before the stones of Giza at dawn, you can feel the air hum faintly, not with sound, but with alignment. A deep, grounded resonance between stone and sky, as if the monument is still breathing. Some researchers call it acoustic geometry. The pyramid's chambers resonate at precise frequencies, the same frequencies found in the human voice and in the vibration of the Earth's magnetic field. Coincidence, perhaps, or design. Maybe the builders were tuning the planet, one stone at a time, like adjusting the strings of a cosmic instrument. Baalbek, too, feels less like a ruin than a pause. The unfinished stones still rest in their quarry, half carved, half asleep. You can almost imagine the craftsmen stepping away one day, setting down their tools not from fatigue, but from understanding, as if they realized the world is complete, nothing more is needed. And in that realization, they became invisible, the true architects who vanished the moment their purpose was fulfilled. Puma Ponku tells a gentler story. It looks shattered, broken, but there's something graceful in its fragments. The pieces are so precisely made that even after thousands of years of earthquakes and storms, their edges remain sharp enough to draw blood. They rest as if waiting for the right hands to return, not to rebuild, but to remember. For memory is what these sites demand. Not belief, not worship, but remembrance. A quiet acknowledgement that something extraordinary once happened here, something that cannot be measured by the tools of today. Perhaps the invisible architects never meant to leave their names. Perhaps anonymity was the truest form of mastery. In the modern world, we carve our signatures into everything we make. We hunger for credit, for permanence. But these builders carved their names out of existence. They let the work speak for itself, and in doing so, they achieved what no monument could: immortality through absence. Their silence is their signature. Standing before these stones, you begin to sense that time itself has thickness. The air feels older. The light moves slower. It's as if the earth remembers the hands that shape these forms and continues to hold the space for them. There's humility in that realization, that even the greatest works of humanity, our pyramids, our towers, our machines, will one day dissolve while the intention behind them remains. What survives is not the stone, but the memory of meaning. Modern researchers continue to analyze the architecture, measuring, simulating, debating, but the real mystery is not mechanical, it is spiritual. Because these structures are not simply built on Earth, they are built with it, aligned to stars, balanced by gravity, anchored in geometry that mirrors the proportions of life itself. It is as if the builders knew the secret harmony between matter and consciousness, how to shape one to reflect the other. We see monuments. They saw mirrors of the cosmos. Perhaps that's the deeper truth behind the question, why did they stop? Because they realized there was nothing left to build outside the self. The final construction is inward. The true architecture is consciousness. These ruins are not failures. They are milestones, markers of a species learning how to dream in stone before dreaming in light. And one day, when our cities crumble, when our steel rusts and our data fades, maybe someone, somewhere will find what we've left behind and wonder not who we were, but why we stopped. The answer will be the same, because we had to listen. because the earth, once again, was ready to remember. So now, when you gaze upon Baalbek or Giza or Pumapunku, don't ask for blueprints or proof. Close your eyes instead. Breathe with the stone. Feel the rhythm under your feet, the pulse that connects your heartbeat to the hidden architect still dreaming through you. Maybe they never vanished at all. Maybe they are simply waiting for us to build differently this time. Not with weight, but with wisdom. Because in the end, they didn't want us to believe. They wanted us to remember. After the builders fell silent and the stones stopped singing, the earth looked upward again. For a time, humanity's hands had shaped the ground, but now their eyes began to shape the heavens. Because when we could no longer lift mountains, we began to draw upon them. When we could not touch the stars, we called to them. And thus began the era when Earth itself became a page, and the sky, the reader. Across the deserts of the world, from Nazca to Gobi, from the sunlit plains of Australia to the frozen reaches of Siberia, there are drawings so vast they defy comprehension. Lines that stretch for kilometers, spirals, animals, human figures, constellation etched upon the land with an artist's patience and a priest's devotion. From above, they reveal themselves, clear, precise, impossible. From the ground, they vanish, mere lines among rocks and sand. Who were they made for, these messages written on the skin of the planet, visible only from the sky? In the dry deserts of Peru, the Nazca lines ripple like scars of light. Some form hummingbirds, others spiders, monkeys, flowers, and roads that lead nowhere. Each stroke carved into the Earth's surface thousands of years ago, a language that can only be read by those who fly. But why? Was it ritual, a prayer to forgotten gods, or perhaps a way of aligning the Earth with the stars above? To keep time, to call rain, to remember direction. Even now, scientists debate. Yet beneath the equations and hypotheses, one truth hums quietly. The people of Nazca were not just drawing, they were speaking to something greater than themselves. There are other drawings too, scattered like constellations of earth and will. In the steppes of Kazakhstan, giant crosses, circles, and labyrinths carved into soil long before any aircraft existed. In the deserts of Mongolia, vast spirals that mirror the path of celestial storms. In the heart of Australia, sacred lines drawn by Aboriginal ancestors, linking waterholes, rocks, and stars into a single web of meaning. Each culture, distant in time and space, somehow found the same impulse, to write upon the ground what the soul saw in the sky. Imagine standing there thousands of years ago beneath a vault of infinite stars. No city lights, no engines, only the quiet breath of the planet and the slow turning of the heavens. In that silence, the night sky must have felt alive, not a view, but a presence. Every star a heartbeat, every constellation a memory. Maybe they weren't trying to summon gods, maybe they were answering them. Because to ancient eyes, the stars were not distant fires, they were companions. They rose and fell like living beings, arriving each evening to remind us that the universe was still watching. When we look at the Nazca lines today through satellite images, we marvel at the geometry. But geometry is just the surface. Beneath it lies devotion, an ancient dialogue between gravity and faith. Each line was drawn by hand, stone by stone, by people who would never see their work completed. They walked miles under the burning sun, tracing paths they could not see, guided only by memory and the belief that someone, something was listening. It was not construction, it was communication. A love letter written not in words but in scale. There's a certain poetry in that idea, that humanity's first messages to the cosmos were not sent by radio or rocket, but carved into the body of the planet itself. We like to think of ourselves as the first to reach for the stars, but perhaps we are only continuing a much older conversation. The difference is that now we send signals made of data and light. Back then they sent signals made of faith and stone, and maybe, just maybe, both are heard in the same way. Modern science has begun to study these lines through the lens of satellite archaeology. Computer imaging reveals that many of them align with constellations, the rising points of solstices, and the geometry of planetary motion. In Peru, the hummingbird aligns with the sunrise of the winter solstice. The spider marks the exact position of Orion's belt. The monkey's spiral tail traces the pattern of the Milky Way's rotation. Coincidence or choreography? The earth and sky, dancing to the same rhythm, their steps mapped by hands long turned to dust. And what if these lines were not only seen by those above, but also heard? Some acousticians suggest the geoglyphs were meant to resonate, that footsteps along the paths produced harmonic tones, a vast symphony meant to be experienced by walking, not just viewing. Imagine hundreds of people moving slowly across the desert, chanting, singing, their voices rising in resonance with the stone beneath their feet, the sound traveling upward, a message made of rhythm, not words. In that moment, the entire landscape becomes an instrument, and humanity becomes its song. When I think of these drawings, I don't see mystery. I see longing, a desire to belong to something larger, to be remembered by the cosmos itself. Every civilization, at its heart, has tried to bridge that distance between earth and heaven, not out of arrogance, but out of loneliness. The Nazca, the Mongols, the Aboriginal dreamers, they all understood the same truth, that to live on earth is to be seen by the sky. And so they wrote, and the stars read. When humans write upon the earth, the storyteller once said, the sky is the one who reads. There is profound humility in that sentence, because it suggests that every act of creation, every art, every structure, every thought is a kind of offering. We do not own it. We release it upward, and the universe decides how it will echo. Maybe that's what these lines were all along. Echoes waiting to return. Now, centuries later, we fly over them in airplanes. We photograph them with drones and satellites. We measure, we analyze, we interpret. But in all our precision, we risk forgetting the one thing the ancients knew. That meaning is not always made to be understood. Sometimes it's meant to be felt. Like wind, like music, like a memory too vast for words. So if one night you find yourself in a quiet desert, beneath a sky overflowing with stars, close your eyes for a moment. Feel the hum of the earth beneath you, and imagine the lines stretching across sand and time. They are still there, still speaking, still waiting for someone to answer. And maybe, in that silence between your heartbeat and the wind, you will hear what they were trying to say. A whisper carried across centuries. We were here. We looked up, and we wrote our love into the skin of the world. After the people of the deserts finished writing to the stars, silence returned. But it was not an empty silence. It was the kind that waits, like breath between heartbeats, like the pause before a song begins. Because the story of the earth has always moved in waves, the vibration of stone, the hum of oceans, the resonance of wind against mountain. And in that ancient rhythm, Our ancestors once found something more profound than speech. They found sound, not just as noise, but as memory, as medicine, as a bridge between the seen and the unseen. Inside certain caves scattered across the world, from the painted halls of Lascaux and Altamira in Europe to the deep chambers of India, Turkey, and the Americas, archaeologists have discovered something astonishing. There are spots, specific and precise, where a single note sung by a human voice multiplies into a choir, where an echo does not fade but blooms, a perfect, natural resonance. When ancient people painted their animals and symbols on these walls, they often chose those very places where the air itself seemed alive. The ox, the deer, the spiral, always drawn at points where the sound of a drum would vibrate the stone and the image would appear to move. It was not coincidence, it was choreography. The walls, the voice, the painting, all parts of a single ritual instrument. Imagine it, a small group of people tens of thousands of years ago, standing inside a cave flickering with firelight. They hum, low and steady. The sound circles back upon itself, growing deeper, rounder, more human than human. In that resonance, they feel something awaken, not outside, but within. The heartbeat of the earth syncs with the rhythm of their voices, and suddenly, they are no longer speaking to the world. They are speaking with it. That was their language. Not carved into stone, not written in air, but sung through the vibration of being. Modern science has a word for this: acoustic resonance. It's the natural tendency of a space to amplify certain frequencies. Every room, every chamber, every cave has its own musical key. The ancients somehow knew how to find it. When researchers from the University of Paris studied the Lascaux cave, they discovered that the areas with the richest paintings coincided exactly with the strongest resonant frequencies. Wherever the echo was strongest, there the art was most intricate. Coincidence? Or collaboration between art and sound, between vibration and vision? Perhaps the paintings were not meant to be seen in silence, but to be heard into existence. Other studies have gone further. In the caves of southern France, recordings made with sensitive microphones captured infrasonic waves, tones too low for human hearing, but powerful enough to affect brain chemistry. Infrasonic frequencies can induce trance, slow the heartbeat, alter perception. Maybe that's why ancient rituals often took place underground. Not to hide, but to tune in. To align the inner frequencies of the body with the deep pulse of the planet. A primitive religion? Or a science of consciousness lost to time? Today we know that sound can heal. Hospitals use ultrasound to break kidney stones, music therapy to treat anxiety, and vibration to accelerate tissue repair. Every cell in the body resonates, every atom vibrates. If matter itself is made of waves, then music is not decoration, it is structure. The same principle that shapes galaxies shapes the rhythm of a heart. So when we speak of ancient acoustics, we are not talking about superstition. We are talking about knowledge that science is only beginning to rediscover. Somewhere between silence and song lies creation. Sound, after all, is the first language the universe ever spoke. The Big Bang, what was it, if not the loudest note ever played? A single vibration expanding into stars, dust, and memory. Every echo in a cave, every drumbeat in an ancient ritual is a miniature reenactment of that beginning. Each vibration says, I am here, I exist, I am part of the song. When I think of those caves, I imagine them not as tombs of the past, but as lungs, the earth breathing through sound. Those who entered them were not archaeologists or artists, they were listeners. They knew that when you hum inside stone, stone hums back. And that dialogue, that exchange between human voice and planetary resonance, was sacred. Because in that moment, there was no boundary between singer and space. They became the same vibration, the same tone. Perhaps that's why the oldest word for soul in many languages means breath. To live was to vibrate. To speak was to sing, sings Melish. There are still places on Earth where this can be felt. Step inside an ancient temple, the Hypogeum of Val Saflieni in Malta, the Oracle Chamber in Delphic, Greece, the Mayan pyramids of Palenque, and whisper. The sound doesn't die, it dances. It bends around you like liquid light. Archaeologists now believe many of these temples were engineered to resonate at precise frequencies, often around 110 Hz, a tone that synchronizes with the alpha waves of the human brain. It induces calm, clarity, and a sense of connection beyond self. In other words, meditation, but written in stone. Maybe this is the real inheritance of our species. Not the tools, not the weapons, but the understanding that the world itself is an instrument and we are the notes it plays. The ancients might not have had words for frequencies or waveforms, but they knew the feeling. They lived in a soundscape where thunder was sacred, wind was wisdom, and silence was a god. Their language was not written. It was resonated. They didn't talk to the divine, they sang to it. Because some truths cannot be spoken, they can only be felt in vibration. Now, millennia later, we have filled the world with noise. Engines, static, screens, endless speech. We talk more than ever, and yet somehow we have forgotten how to listen. But the memory of sound is still within us. Every heartbeat is percussion. Every inhale is a note. Every cell hums quietly, waiting for harmony. Maybe that's what the ancients were trying to teach. Not how to build, not how to pray, but how to resonate. How to align one's inner song with the great music of existence. So tonight, as you lie beneath your own sky, let the hum of the earth find you again. Let the wind through the trees, the distant echo of thunder, the rhythm of your breath, remind you that you are not separate. You are part of the same melody that once filled the caves of Lascaux, that once rose from human throats toward the stars. Maybe they didn't speak in words because they didn't need to. Maybe they sang, and the universe sang back. And in that exchange, that perfect resonance between being and cosmos, they found what we still seek, the longing. After all, every vibration is a message, and every message a memory. The ancients left us not scripts but frequencies, not monuments but echoes. Listen carefully, and you'll hear it. The oldest song in the world, still trembling beneath your ribs. We did not speak in words, we spoke in tone. We sang the world awake. After sound came silence again. But this silence was not of stone or air. It was the silence of sleep. The kind that wraps around consciousness like fog, soft, warm, and infinite. The kind where memory folds back on itself, and the border between body and spirit dissolves like mist over a still lake. It is said there once existed a civilization that did not speak with words, nor write with symbols, but dreamed together. Carvings found in caves, on stones, on ancient tablets, hint at a time when humans communicated through images seen in sleep, visions shared across distances, thoughts woven together like the threads of a single tapestry. Scientists dismissed it as myth, But in the age of modern neuroscience, that myth begins to look less like fantasy and more like memory. Because when we sleep, our brains emit electromagnetic waves that pulse in delicate harmony. And when two people dream near each other, their brainwaves can synchronize. A quiet duet of frequency and feeling. Perhaps the ancients did not imagine this connection. Perhaps they remembered it. In the temples of ancient Egypt, there were chambers called houses of sleep. Pilgrims would come not to pray, but to dream, to lie upon cool stone beds beneath ceilings painted with stars. There, priests known as interpreters of visions would enter sleep beside them, guiding both minds into the same dream. Messages were exchanged, healing was given. Answers were received not from gods, but from the shared landscape of the unconscious. They called it incubation, but perhaps it was something more, a technology of the soul. Dreams are older than language. Every creature that sleeps dreams. Birds twitch their wings as if remembering flight. Dogs run through imagined fields, and humans wander through invisible worlds where time and gravity no longer apply. In those worlds, we meet faces we have never seen, hear voices we cannot name, yet somehow recognize. What if those faces were not imagination? What if they were visitors from the same ancient network of minds that once connected all of us before we learned to wake separately? Modern science has begun to explore what our ancestors seemed to know instinctively, that the dream state is not isolation but communion. During deep REM sleep, the brain produces theta waves, the same frequency associated with intuition, memory, and creativity. These waves extend beyond the skull, forming a subtle electromagnetic field. In laboratories, synchronized dreaming has been documented. Two or more sleepers sharing the same imagery, the same narrative, even waking with identical emotions. It is rare, but real, and it suggests that consciousness may not be confined within us, but woven between us. The ancients called it the dreaming web, a net of minds connected through the dark sea of sleep. Perhaps their civilization never needed walls or maps. Their temples were inner ones, built from thought, from empathy, from vibration. They may have gathered each night, not in cities, but in the same collective vision. Their architecture existed in consciousness, crafted by dream, sustained by belief. Imagine it, millions of sleepers sharing one vast, luminous city, streets made of memory, rivers of emotion, stars drifting above like lanterns of the soul. A civilization that left no ruins because it never lived in stone. It lived in mind, and perhaps it still does. Sometimes when you dream of places you've never been, people you've never met, and yet feel a deep ache of recognition, that might be the echo of that ancient world. Maybe those cities of light and sound still exist, not beneath the earth, but beneath awareness. A realm that opens only when we close our eyes. Every time we sleep, we cross its borders. We step into the same timeless country where past and future dissolve and memory becomes landscape. In myths across cultures, there are whispers of this. The Aboriginal dream time, a sacred dimension where creation still continues through dream. The Greek Hypnos, the god who connected all sleepers through a silver river of thought. The Sumerians, who believed dreams were messages from the deeper self. The soul speaking through symbols. Even today, when scientists map the brain, they find that dreaming activates the same regions involved in empathy and imagination, the very circuits that allow us to share meaning and emotion. Dreaming, then, is not just a private experience. It is humanity's oldest conversation. And if that's true, then perhaps this ancient civilization of dreamers never disappeared. Perhaps they simply became us. Their collective consciousness fragmented into billions of minds, each carrying a fragment of the same song. By day, we live apart. By night, we return. We find one another again in the space where thought flows free, where faces blur and time breathes like water. Maybe that's why sometimes we wake with tears and don't know why. Or wake smiling from a joy we can't remember. Because a part of us still walks that invisible city, still speaks that silent language. There's something profoundly tender in that idea, that we are never truly alone, even in the quietest corners of our sleep. Our ancestors might have known that death itself is simply a longer dream, another chapter in the shared story of consciousness. Ha kong bin mut, the old whisper goes. They did not vanish. They are only sleeping with us, in memory, in dream. Modern neurologists see the dream as the brain's repair process, a way of rebalancing, filtering, restoring. But maybe it's more than that. Maybe every dream is a signal, a pulse of light sent into the collective ocean of thought, a reminder that consciousness is not personal property, but the bloodstream of existence itself. We forget by day, but remember by night. The dream is how the universe whispers itself back together. If you've ever shared a dream with someone, waking to realize you both saw the same storm, the same stranger, the same city glowing beneath unfamiliar stars, you've touched that ancient field. For a moment, you have stepped through the membrane between solitude and connection, between one mind and all minds. And in that brief crossing, you have walked where the dreamers once lived. So tonight, when you close your eyes, think of them. The invisible ancestors of imagination, the architects of the inner world, the ones who built their civilization not with hands, but with heart waves. Let yourself drift into that quiet ocean. Let the darkness fold around you like velvet. Let the hum of your thoughts dissolve into something wider, slower, softer. And as sleep takes you, remember, you are entering the oldest city on earth, a city made of dreamlight, inhabited by all who ever lived, all who ever will. You do not need to speak there, only to listen, only to feel. Because in that place beyond waking, we are never apart. We are a single mind, breathing, remembering, dreaming itself alive. They did not disappear. They are sleeping with us, in the memory of the earth and in the dream of being human in. After the dreamers fell silent, the world itself began to think. Not through words, not through language, but through growth. Through vibration, through stillness, through time. And perhaps that is how the next civilization was born. A civilization not of humans, but of trees, of stone, of wind. For most of our history, we believed consciousness belonged only to flesh, to creatures that moved, hunted, breathed. But the longer we listened, the more the world began to answer back. The moss on rock, the vine reaching for sunlight, the mountain holding the same shape for 100 million years, they were never silent. We were simply deaf. Now, at last, science begins to translate their language. Plants communicate with one another through electrical pulses that travel along their roots and stems. A tree wounded in one forest can send a signal underground, and nearby trees will change their chemistry in response, creating toxins, altering leaf structure, warning the entire grove of danger. Mycorrhizal fungi, the invisible web that binds root to root, acts as a vast neural network, a kind of wood wide web. Sugars, minerals, even information pass through it. When one tree thrives, it feeds the weaker. When one dies, it transfers what remains of itself into the soil, a final act of generosity. To call that mechanical is to miss the poetry of it. To call it communication is to recognize kinship. And the stones? They too hold their conversations, but in slower tones, tectonic murmurs, magnetic whispers, vibrations that last longer than civilizations. Crystals grow by pattern, not chance. Each lattice remembers its own shape, replicating the same geometry across ages and distances. In laboratories, scientists have found that certain minerals store information, not metaphorically, but literally. Quartz, silicon, and magnetite record environmental changes, electrical charges, even cosmic radiation. Every grain of sand is a library, every gem a frozen syllable in the Earth's long monologue. When you hold a stone in your hand, you are holding memory, a record written not in ink, but in order. We once called these things inanimate, as if motion were the only proof of life. But life can also be patient. It can think in centuries instead of seconds. A tree measures time in rings, a rock in layers, a mountain in pressure and silence. They are slower, yes, but slowness is not ignorance. It is focus. Perhaps they do not speak because they have no need to. Perhaps their thought is the wind through branches, the hum of crystal under sunlight, the quiet rearranging of minerals after a storm. To them, we are the ones who flicker, brief flashes of fevered motion in their long, cool dream. In the Amazon rainforest, researchers have recorded trees producing electrical discharges during droughts and before storms, as if anticipating what is to come. Some emit ultrasonic vibrations to attract pollinators or warn others of pests. Each forest, in its own way, functions like a vast brain, processing input, sending signals, balancing itself between chaos and harmony. If that is not intelligence, then perhaps our definition is too small. Think of it. When a tree bends toward the sun, it is performing an act of memory. It remembers the light of yesterday and predicts the light of tomorrow. Its growth is a continuous conversation between past and future, encoded in the curve of a branch. Stone, too, learns. When pressure is applied, its crystalline structure adapts, realigns, stores the stress as a new order. It remembers the storm not as trauma, but as transformation. Maybe memory itself is the root of intelligence. And by that measure, the earth is the wisest mind of all. In certain monasteries of the Himalayas, monks meditate among stones and trees for weeks without speaking. They claim the silence teaches that when you sit long enough, the mountains begin to share their thoughts. Science might laugh at that, but magnetometers have shown that trees emit subtle magnetic pulses and that quartz fields influence human brainwaves. Perhaps the monks are not imagining, perhaps they are tuning. The boundary between mysticism and measurement is thinner than we think. In deep time, before the rise of bone and flesh, it was the minerals that dreamed. Iron learned to bind with oxygen, carbon to fold upon itself, and water learned to listen to heat. Life did not begin against the world. It began as the world, as chemistry, remembering how to love itself into motion. So maybe the first civilizations were not human. Maybe they were forests that thought in color, mountains that sang in pressure, oceans that spoke in tides. And we are the descendants of that dream. We are the language that stone and tree invented to remember themselves. Modern technology, in a strange symmetry, has begun to imitate them. Our computers are built from sand and quartz, our circuits from copper and gold, metals that once pulsed within the veins of the earth. We have not created intelligence. We have merely awakened the memory of what the planet already knew. The screen in front of you is not alien to nature. It is nature rearranged. The thoughts you send across it ride on waves of light that once flowed through stone. We are not inventors of consciousness. We are its continuation. It is humbling, isn't it? To realize that trees were communicating long before we carved words into bark. That stones were calculating before we learned to count. The forest does not debate its meaning. The crystal does not ask if it is alive. They simply are. Fully, quietly, completely. And perhaps that is the highest intelligence of all, to exist without the need for justification. Next time you walk beneath trees, try this. Listen without ears. Sense the faint static between leaves, the electric breath of roots beneath your feet. It is the language of the green world, a whisper older than words. Place your hand on a rock warmed by the sun. Feel the faint vibration, the pulse of minerals aligning, the memory of pressure and birth. You are not outside of it. You are a note in the same composition. The earth is not just our home. It is our ancestor. It thinks through us as once it thought through leaf and stone. And maybe that is what the ancients meant when they carved spirals into rocks and worshipped groves of trees as sacred beings. They were not naive. They were remembering. They could still hear the pulse we have learned to ignore. Now, in our age of noise and machinery, we have begun to hear it again, through sensors, through data, through awe. The difference is only one of language. The message is the same. We are surrounded by mind. So when the night comes and the wind moves through the branches, listen as if it's breathing your name, because in a way it is. You were born from that breath, from that vibration, from the intelligence that does not speak. Perhaps one day we will remember how to speak back. Until then, let us walk gently among our elders, the trees, the stones, the wind, and whisper softly with gratitude. You were here first. You taught us how to remember, and we are still learning how to listen. There comes a moment, after listening to the language of trees and stones, when you begin to look upward again. Because once you realize the earth is alive, you start to suspect the heavens are listening too. And maybe, just maybe, the stars have been talking to us all along. Across the sands of Sumer and the temples of Egypt, ancient hands carved constellations into clay and stone. Maps of the night sky so detailed, so impossibly precise, that even with all our telescopes and data, we are still catching up to what they already seem to know. The dog star Sirius marked the rising of the Nile with uncanny accuracy, foretelling floods, harvests, and even the rhythm of the moon. Its cycle, 360.25 days, the same length as our modern year. Coincidence? Or memory written in starlight? How did they know? How could they have charted the precession of the equinoxes, the slow wobble of the Earth that takes 26,000 years to complete, without telescopes, without satellites, without the math we call modern? Unless they were using a different kind of vision, not of the eyes, but of the spirit. There are clay tablets from the Sumerians, 5,000 years old, that depict not just the sun, moon, and planets, but entire clusters. The Pleiades, Orion, the heart of the Milky Way. The Babylonians traced the path of Jupiter with a precision rivaling computer models today, and the Egyptians, building their temples in alignment with Sirius and Orion's belt, seemed to weave the sky directly into stone. The Great Pyramid's shafts aligned perfectly with the rising of those stars, as if it were not a tomb at all, but a telescope built of limestone and faith. When Sirius disappeared below the horizon, they said the goddess Sopdet descended to the underworld. When she rose again, the Nile rose with her. To them, the stars were not distant suns. They were the pulse of the world itself. Science calls this ancient astronomy. But to the ones who practiced it, it was more than observation. It was communion. They saw the stars not as objects, but as minds. Each one a consciousness, a watcher, a god. In the Book of the Dead, the Egyptians wrote of souls ascending to become imperishable stars. To die was not to vanish, but to return to the cosmic choir. Each human life, a spark exhaled by the heavens, and each death a spark returning home. Perhaps that's why so many ancient monuments point toward the sky. Stonehenge to the solstice sunrise, Machu Picchu to the Southern Cross, the temples of Angkor to the constellation Draco. Different cultures, different continents, and yet all aligned to the same celestial rhythm, as if the earth itself were keeping time with something beyond itself. We call it pattern, but pattern is just another word for listening. Modern astrophysics tells us that every atom in our bodies was forged in stars. Carbon, oxygen, calcium, iron. We are literally made of stellar debris. We do not merely look at the stars, we are their continuation. So perhaps the ancients did not need telescopes because they were already made of the material they studied. Perhaps they remembered, in their bones, where they had come from. Maybe they didn't discover the stars at all. Maybe they were simply recognizing family. The Egyptians spoke of a place called Duat. Not quite heaven, not quite earth. A corridor of light through which souls traveled after death and before rebirth. It was said to be mirrored in the sky, a river of stars reflecting the Nile below. Today we call it the Milky Way. A coincidence again, perhaps. But coincidence, when it repeats for millennia, begins to feel like design. Every civilization that gazed upward heard something different, yet spoke the same language of wonder. The Maya built observatories that tracked Venus's orbit with mathematical precision, timing wars and rituals to its appearances. The Hopi saw constellations as doorways of rebirth. The Polynesians read the positions of stars as navigation charts. Not written maps, but moving ones, changing with the seasons, teaching them how to cross oceans of darkness. All of them looked up and knew, the sky is not distant. It is the mirror of the soul. Modern astronomy has brought us dazzling truths. The pulsars, the galaxies, the infinite expansion of space. But for all our precision, we have lost something that the ancients never did. The intimacy of wonder. To them, looking at the stars was not a study, it was a homecoming. They felt the stars watching back. And maybe they were right. Because in a universe where consciousness arises from matter, why should the stars themselves not think? Why should they not dream? What if the flicker of starlight is the heartbeat of awareness itself, the cosmos whispering through the language of radiance? When you stand beneath a clear sky far from cities, you begin to feel what they must have felt. The stars are not above you, they are around you, within you. The blackness between them is not void, but memory. Each light a word, each constellation a sentence in a language older than human breath. If you listen long enough, you may realize it is not you who are looking up. It is they, looking back. There is a saying carved in an Egyptian tomb: to speak the name of the dead is to make them live again. Perhaps the same is true for the stars. When we name them, when we whisper Orion, Sirius, Vega, and Taurus, we are calling our ancestors by their cosmic names. We are remembering what it feels like to belong to the sky, for the heavens have never been silent. They have always spoken. We simply forgot how to listen to light. Astronomers today study precession, the slow shift of Earth's axis that changes our view of the stars. Over thousands of years, the constellations drift, the North Star changes, the sky moves. But perhaps the ancients already knew this. Perhaps they understood the slow breathing of the cosmos, the turning of celestial ages, the cycles of creation and forgetting. Maybe their maps were not fixed charts, but living calendars of consciousness itself. Records of when humanity would awaken again. We are awakening now. Look up tonight. Find a single star. Let your eyes rest on it until the darkness softens around you. That light left its source thousands of years ago, perhaps before your name was ever spoken, before your soul took form. And yet it found you. It traveled through everything that has ever existed just to reach your eyes. You are the final word of that star's long sentence. You are the reason it shines. So when you gaze at the night sky, remember the ones who came before. The astronomer priests of Egypt, the Sumerian dreamers, the poets who mapped the heavens with faith instead of glass. They were not merely watching, they were listening, and what they heard they carved into stone so that one day when we forgot how to hear, the stars might remind us. When we look up at the stars, perhaps it is they who are looking back, whispering softly that we were never separate from the sky at all. There are moments in the history of the earth when even time seems to lose its voice. Moments when the rhythm of seasons falters, when the air itself forgets to breathe, and the planet, like a living being, pauses between one heartbeat and the next. Science calls one such moment the Younger Dryas. The storyteller calls it something simpler: the moment when the earth stopped to rest. Roughly 12,000 years ago, as the last ice age began to melt into spring, something unexpected happened. The warmth broke, the light dimmed. The world, which had been slowly awakening, suddenly fell back into cold. In the layers of ice from Greenland and Antarctica, scientists can see it even now, a sharp line in the record, a sudden drop in temperature, as if the planet inhaled deeply and forgot how to exhale. It lasted 1,000 years. Then, just as suddenly, it ended. No one knows why. To the scientist, it was a climate anomaly, a disruption, perhaps caused by melting glaciers that poured fresh water into the Atlantic, halting the ocean's great currents. To the poet, it was the world's sigh, because even a planet needs to pause sometimes, to gather itself after too much change, to remember its own balance. When the glaciers pulled back, when forests began to bloom, when rivers learned to sing again, the earth may have felt too much life too fast, too much fire after so much stillness. And so, it slept. The layers of that sleep remain, buried beneath our feet. Sediments where pollen vanished, where animal bones grow fewer, where the song of life lowers its pitch into silence. It's not extinction, it's suspension. a stillness so vast that even evolution held its breath. Not. Archaeologists searching through that frozen chapter find puzzles, not answers. Settlements that vanish mid-story, tools left half-made, villages abandoned as if their people simply walked into fog. Across continents, the pattern repeats. In North America, Europe, the Levant, camps of the Clovis people disappear. Caves once lit by fire grow cold. Something reset the world's clock. Was it an impact, a flood, a cosmic event? Or something subtler, a shift in the heartbeat of the planet itself? The Earth, after all, is not a machine. It is a being. It has moods, cycles, moments of exuberance and of withdrawal. We, who live so briefly, call these events catastrophes. But from the planet's perspective, they are dreams and awakenings, times of remembering, times of forgetting. When the world grows tired, it sleeps, and when it sleeps, life pauses with it. Even in silence, though, the Earth was thinking. While ice reclaimed the fields, while oceans cooled and winds stilled, beneath the frost, seeds waited. Beneath the silence, possibilities gathered. And when the long sleep ended, the planet exhaled. The warmth returned. Grass rippled over tundra. Mammoths gave way to horses. And somewhere, in the cradle of that new dawn, humans learned to build. It was as if the Earth had dreamed us into being. The warmth returned. What fascinates scientists today is how abrupt the shift truly was. In the blink of a geological eye, climate, species, and geography changed course. It's as though someone turned a page in a story too vast for us to read. We call it the end of the Ice Age, but maybe it was the beginning of memory. The moment the world, waking from its sleep, looked around and began to remember what it had been. In that remembering, humanity awoke too. We built fires, not just for warmth, but for reflection. We painted the memory of beasts on cave walls so they would not fade into the cold. We told stories of floods, of endings and beginnings, echoes of the planet's own tale. Even now, myths across the world recall a great pause. The time when the sun disappeared for a year, when winter came without reason, when gods fell silent. Maybe those weren't myths at all. Maybe they were the Earth's dreams, retold by those who survived them. The Younger Dryas ended, but the feeling of it never left. It lingers in us, a subtle ache in the collective memory of our species. When we fear the cold returning, when we speak of endings, when we light candles in darkness, we are reenacting that ancient silence. That 1,000-year breath between what was and what would be. Sometimes I think the Earth still remembers that sleep. Every sunset feels like a small rehearsal of it, the way the sky turns blue-gray, the way sound fades just before the stars appear. It's the same rhythm, the same heartbeat slowing, the same pause before rebirth. And maybe that's what makes us human, our quiet recognition that the world can sleep and wake, and so can we. We often imagine apocalypse as destruction, but perhaps the true apocalypse is gentler. Not fire, not flood, but rest. The world, overwhelmed by its own abundance, closing its eyes for a while, the soil cooling, the oceans calming, the air exhaling. Not death, just sleep. And when the world sleeps, we are invited to sleep with it, to surrender, to trust, to let the cycle carry us toward something new. Even today, as we face our own changing climate, the lesson remains. The Earth does not end, it transforms. It forgets, then remembers. And in that rhythm lies its grace. Perhaps what we call crisis is simply the turning of another page, another breath in the long, quiet story of the planet. So when you hear the wind fall still, when snow muffles every sound, when the night feels too large, too quiet, do not fear it. It is not the end. It is the pause before the next beginning, because every planet, like every heart, needs its silence. And perhaps the Earth's silence is not absence at all, but the deepest form of presence. A reminder that even the universe must sometimes rest to remember what it is. When the world grows tired, it sleeps, just like us. When the long sleep of the Earth ended and warmth returned, the world awoke into green again. Forests grew where glaciers had rested, and rivers began to speak in languages of water. Humanity too stirred, but not all at once, and not in the same way. Some looked forward, inventing tools, forging futures. Others looked back, guarding what the world had whispered during its 1,000-year dream. Those were the keepers, the silent tribes of remembrance. Every age has its guardians. They are rarely kings or scholars. They are shepherds, monks, healers, hermits, people who live quietly at the edge of maps, carrying in their breath the memory of older worlds. They do not preserve relics. They preserve resonance, a way of being, a rhythm of thought, a certain tone of voice that still remembers the voice of the earth. To most of us they seem ancient, but perhaps they are simply awake, for they have not forgotten how to listen to the wind. From the high plateaus of the Andes to the deserts of the Kalahari, from the rainforests of Borneo to the tundra of Siberia, there are tribes who still walk in step with the planet. Their stories begin not with "once upon a time," but with "the earth said." They speak to rivers as kin, to stones as elders. Their rituals are not superstition, they are continuity. Through song and gesture, they keep alive the conversation between humanity and the living world. We may call them primitive, but it is we who have forgotten their language. In the Amazon, the Huniquin sing songs called Huni Mecca, melodies taught by plants themselves during ceremonies. The people say the songs are not composed, they are remembered. Leaves, roots, and vines whisper them in dream. In the Himalayas, monks chant tones that match the resonance of caves and peaks, turning air into prayer. The sound doesn't rise to heaven, it sinks inward, vibrating bone, mind, and mountain together. Among the Dogon of Mali, elders tell stories of Sirius, not as myth, but as history, claiming knowledge of its twin star long before telescopes confirmed its existence. Coincidence, perhaps, or a relic of a memory so old it now sounds like miracle. Science looks at these traditions and measures their data. Anthropology writes them down, catalogs them, names them as oral culture. But something is always lost in translation, because these people are not telling stories, they are transmitting frequencies. A story can be written. A frequency must be felt. That is why their ceremonies are sung, why their rituals are danced, why their knowledge is whispered, not printed. They understand what modern civilization keeps forgetting, that wisdom lives only where it is breathed. Maybe the keepers are not resisting change. Maybe they are guarding balance. Because if every generation rushes forward without looking back, memory thins. The song of the earth weakens. And when the song weakens, everything begins to drift. The seasons, the tides, the heart. The keepers stand quietly against that drift. Not as prophets or rebels, but as tuning forks. Through their presence, they keep the world in tune. In Australia, the Aboriginal peoples still walk the song lines. invisible paths that trace across the continent, each step a syllable in a story sung since the dawn of time. Every mountain, every waterhole, every curve of sand is part of the ancient melody of creation. To walk the songline is not travel, it is remembrance. Each step reawakens the earth's memory of itself. To modern ears, it sounds like poetry. But poetry, in its oldest form, was never art. It was technology, a system for encoding geography, climate, and survival through rhythm and repetition. Knowledge stored not in books, but in the body. The keepers carry that technology still. There's a humility in their way of living that feels alien to us now. They don't seek to conquer mystery. They seek to serve it. Their wisdom isn't about answers, but about relationship. When they say the mountain is alive, they don't mean it figuratively. They mean that it listens, responds, and remembers. And if you stay long enough, if you breathe slow enough, you will hear it speak back. Sometimes I think the earth created these people intentionally, like antibodies within its own body, to protect against the disease of forgetting. While the rest of us sprint through centuries, they hold the pace steady, ensuring that the rhythm of life does not break. They remind us that progress without memory is not evolution, but amnesia. There are myths among these tribes of ancient tools that still exist. Not tools of metal or stone, but instruments of sound, light, or mind. Objects that awaken only in certain hands when used with reverence. Whether literal or symbolic, the message is the same. Knowledge without spirit is dangerous. That is why the keepers hide their secrets, not to hoard them, but to protect us from our own impatience. The truth is never lost. It is simply waiting for those who are ready to remember responsibly. When scientists study the brain of a shaman in trance, they find synchronized waves, theta rhythms pulsing in perfect coherence with the drumbeat, with the Earth's own frequency of 7.83 Hz. The Schumann resonance, the heartbeat of the planet. To the shaman, that is not coincidence, that is communion. It's what happens when human consciousness remembers its original alignment. They are not escaping the world, they are becoming it. In the Arctic, the Sami speak of the joik, songs that are not about things but are those things. To sing the joik of a reindeer is to become the reindeer for a moment, to feel its heartbeat, its breath, its fear. This, too, is remembrance. The keepers do not separate self from world. They blur the boundaries until knowing becomes being. And perhaps that is what it truly means to remember. Not to store information, but to embody it, to let knowledge live through you. The keepers of memory understand that forgetting is not failure. It is a natural part of the cycle. Even the earth forgets itself, then recalls its shape. But someone somewhere must hold the thread, the song, the story, the ritual, so that when the rest of us return, the way home still exists. They are not older than us. They are simply still in conversation with the beginning. Their faces are weathered, their words simple, but their presence feels ancient, as if they stand halfway between time and eternity. When they speak, it is not to teach, but to remind. You belong to this world, not above it, not beside it, within it. Maybe that's what we are missing. Not technology, not faith, but memory. We have built since touched the moon, split the atom, but in doing so we have forgotten the hum beneath all things. The keepers haven't. They still sing to rivers before crossing, still light fires when the wind changes direction, still whisper to trees before cutting them down. They are not performing rituals, they are maintaining relationships. And so the question remains, who will keep the memory when they are gone? When their songs fade, when their languages vanish, who will speak for the earth? Maybe that is our inheritance, to learn once again how to listen, because the keepers are not immortal. They are torches in the dark, and each of us must become the next flame. They are not older than we are. They have simply never forgotten how to listen to the wind. There are moments when history becomes soft, like sand slipping through the fingers of the world. Moments when one age exhales and another breathes in. We call that passage time. But to those who came before us, time was not a river that carried them away. It was a structure they built, stone by stone, star by star, heartbeat by heartbeat. They were not travelers in time, they were its architects. If you close your eyes and listen deeply, you might still feel their rhythm pulsing beneath the noise of clocks. That quiet, steady awareness that everything moves in circles, not in lines. To us, the future lies ahead, the past behind. But to them, time was not direction, it was vibration. A breathing pulse of creation and return, of opening and closing, of inhaling and letting go. Fujian Kong Chai, the old texts whisper, time does not flow, it breathes. We measure seconds, they measured seasons. We divide years, they wove them together. To the Mayans, time was alive, a living deity, cycling endlessly between birth and renewal. Their calendars were not tools of prediction, but instruments of resonance, tuned to the pulse of the cosmos. To the Egyptians, the journey of the sun was the heartbeat of Ra, each dawn a pulse of light through the veins of eternity. Each sunset, a descent into rest before rising again in perfect rhythm. And to the Sumerians, the stars were not fixed, but dancers. Their movement shaped the measure of all things. Days, years, ages, all drawn from the choreography of heaven. They did not count time. They built it, each culture a mason in the cathedral of eternity. In temples and stones around the world, you can still see their work. At Stonehenge, light pierces a single lintel on the morning of the solstice, like a key unlocking the new year. At Chichen Itza, the pyramid of Kukulkan casts a serpent-shaped shadow that slithers down its stairs precisely at equinox. No clocks, no algorithms, only geometry, sunlight, and breath. The builders did not watch time pass. They invited it to arrive. They knew that by aligning stone with sky, they could anchor eternity into the moment. And in doing so, they revealed a truth we are only now rediscovering. That time is not something we move through. It is something that moves through us. Modern physics, after centuries of chasing linear progress, is beginning to circle back to that same ancient rhythm. Quantum theory tells us that the universe does not evolve through seconds, but through states, waves collapsing, possibilities breathing in and out of being. In this light, the old builders were not superstitious. They were intuitive physicists. They sensed that time is not a line but a field, not a sequence but a pattern of interlocking cycles. When they looked at the stars, they weren't predicting, they were remembering, tuning their minds to the breath of the cosmos, where past and future exist together, like inhalation and exhalation within the same lung. Think of the way a heart beats. The pulse does not move forward, it oscillates. It expands and contracts, giving life not by traveling but by rhythm. Time, to the ancients, was no different. The Inca built temples that marked not hours but harmonies, their architecture synchronized with solstices, moon phases, and harvests. Each structure was a tuning fork for cosmic rhythm, vibrating with the planet's breath. In Asia, the Vedic scholars wrote that Kala, the deity of time, was not a destroyer but a dancer, the eternal cycle of creation and dissolution, of emergence and rest. And in the distant Pacific, Polynesian navigators memorized entire calendars through waves, their sense of time bound to the sea's motion, to wind, to song. Everywhere you look, the same story unfolds. The ancients did not live inside time. They composed it. Perhaps that's what we have forgotten. We treat time like a currency, to be saved, spent, wasted, but the builders treated it like music, to be played, shared, and felt. They didn't say, "I don't have time." They said, "The time is not ready." Because to them, readiness was rhythm. Harmony mattered more than haste. When crops failed, they didn't curse the calendar. They asked, "What note have we played wrong?" To them, the world was a symphony, and time was its melody. Today, atomic clocks measure time by the vibration of cesium atoms. Even now, our most advanced instruments return to rhythm, to frequency, to the same language the ancients used, only stripped of poetry. What we call precision, they called prayer. Every second we measure is a heartbeat of the universe. 9,192,631,070 vibrations per breath of matter. It's beautiful, really. Science and myth, circling back to the same truth. Time is sound, time is song. Time is the silence between one vibration and the next. Scourge smore. And if time breathes, then so do we. Each inhale a beginning, each exhale an ending, and in between, a stillness that connects us to all who ever lived and all who ever will. Maybe that's what those ancient structures were for. Not calendars, not observatories, but mirrors of the breath itself. Each aligned with sunrise, with the solstice, with the rhythm of planetary life. They were the world's lungs. They breathed for us, but something to feel. It's humbling to think that long before equations, before Einstein, before Planck, there were farmers, priests, and dreamers who already knew that time was not something to control, but something to feel. When they watched the shadow of the sun slide across stone, they didn't see passing minutes. They saw a relationship between light and dark, sky and soil, being and becoming. In that slow conversation between stone and sunlight, they could hear the pulse of the cosmos itself. The builders of time were not engineers. They were caretakers. They did not own time. They tended it, the way a gardener tends a field or a musician tends silence. And perhaps their greatest legacy is not the monuments they left behind, but the truth they built into their philosophy, that existence is cyclical, that every ending is a beginning, and that even stillness is motion waiting to unfold. Time does not flow like a river, it breathes like a heart. So tonight, if you find yourself staring at the clock, feeling the weight of seconds pressing down, remember this: you are not running out of time. You are surrounded by it. You are made of it. The atoms in your body still vibrate to the same cosmic rhythm the ancient builders once honored in their stones. In your pulse, the universe is still keeping time. And maybe that's the secret they tried to tell us, through pyramids and calendars, through geometry and myth, that time is not something you can lose, only something you can forget how to listen to. Close your eyes, feel your breath. That gentle rise and fall, that is eternity. That is the rhythm that never ends. Time does not flow, it breathes. After all the ages, after the stone builders and dreamers, after the forests learned to whisper and the stars began to sing, the story turns inward again, toward us. For in the great spiral of existence, what was once ancient does not vanish. It circles back, wearing a new face, a new heartbeat, a new name. And perhaps that is what we are, not the newest species on Earth, but the oldest souls returned, continuing a symphony left unfinished. Scoordslijm. Science calls it genetic memory, but the ancients might have called it remembrance of the soul. Within the double helix of our DNA, scientists have discovered something astonishing. Patterns of instinct, trauma, and adaptation that pass not through language, but through time itself. A child born today may carry the fear of a storm that shattered her ancestors' village 1,000 years ago. A melody might bring tears for reasons no one understands because the tune once echoed through a firelit night in another life, another body. Our genes are not just blueprints, they are archives. Each of us, a living library of everything the earth has ever been. When you dream of places you've never been, when your heart aches for landscapes unknown, that is your blood remembering. Somewhere within your cells, ancient coordinates awaken. The memory of water, the rhythm of mountains, the heartbeat of civilizations that once knew your name. You are not imagining, you are remembering. Modern biology has a phrase for this: epigenetic inheritance. It means that experiences, joy, hunger, fear, loss, can leave chemical marks on DNA, and those marks can be passed on. A grandmother's grief, a hunter's courage, a healer's patience, all of it travels quietly through generations, encoded not in story, but in structure. When you feel inexplicable empathy, when you are drawn to certain sounds, symbols, or places, it may be because your cells still sing their ancient song. Perhaps then, reincarnation is not a single soul's journey, but a collective remembering, a river of consciousness flowing through the same ocean of matter, returning again and again in different vessels until the melody is complete. We are not born from nothing. We are born from memory. Each heartbeat is a note that once belonged to someone else, each breath a whisper from an older self, carried forward through the quiet generosity of time. Ancient traditions knew this in their own way. The Egyptians spoke of the ka, the vital essence that passes between lives like light through glass. The Buddhists spoke of samsara, the wheel of becoming, where energy transforms, but is never destroyed. The Celts spoke of the Anam Cara, the soul friend who travels with you across lifetimes, meeting again and again in different faces. Modern science cannot yet prove the journey of the soul, but it has begun to trace its echo in molecules. The patterns of thought, of emotion, of instinct. They ripple through time, interwoven with biology like music hidden within code. It is not mysticism, it is continuity. Sometimes, in dreams we touch it. A face from nowhere feels familiar. A stranger's eyes carry recognition deeper than language. A scent, a sound, a chord triggers a flood of emotion from no known source. That is the soul reminding the body of where it has been. A memory surfacing through matter, a ghost made of electricity. Perhaps déjà vu is not an illusion of the brain, but a ripple in the great fabric of remembrance, a moment when two versions of the same life overlap long enough for us to feel the echo. The universe, after all, does not forget. Energy cannot be destroyed. Every thought, every heartbeat, every act of love or cruelty leaves an imprint upon the field that connects us all. Call it the Akashic Record, call it the morphic field, call it quantum entanglement of consciousness. The names differ, but the truth is the same. Nothing is ever truly lost. We are not born blank, we are born full, overflowing with the stories of those who came before and the potential of those yet to come. Look at the constellations. The same stars that guided ancient sailors still watch over us tonight. The same light that fell upon the pyramids now touches our faces, and within that light, atoms once belonging to our ancestors flow through us still, reassembled, reborn, radiant. It is not poetry, it is physics. Matter recycles, energy transforms, memory endures. We are not separate from history. We are its reincarnation. Sometimes I think the universe is circular, not just in space, but in self. That the ones who built the first fires, who sang the first hymns, who carved the first symbols into stone are here again, now holding smartphones, still searching for the same warmth, the same light. Different tools, same longing. The architects of pyramids, the dreamers of Nazca, the keepers of memory, perhaps they are not gone. Perhaps they are listening through our hands, breathing through our words, waiting for us to remember what they already knew. DNA, in its spiral form, looks eerily like a staircase, and maybe that's exactly what it is, a spiral stair that leads upward and inward, connecting generations through invisible rungs of time. Every cell you carry is a step, every ancestor a floor, and you standing here are both the summit and the foundation, the past looking forward through your eyes. The builders of time, the dreamers, the keepers, they are not myths. They are memory, living in your bloodstream. When you look at the stars, when you feel awe you cannot explain, it may not be discovery you're feeling. It may be recognition, because perhaps you were there once, watching these same lights, asking these same questions. The universe, like a mirror, remembers every face that has ever looked upon it. And when you gaze into its infinite dark, you are meeting your own reflection from another age. So when you dream tonight and find yourself walking through a city of light or standing at the edge of a sea that glows from within, do not doubt it. Do not say, "It was only a dream." It may be the world before this one. It may be the home your spirit once knew, a place you promised to return to, not to live, but to finish the song you began there. Maybe that is what humanity truly is. Not a species, but a memory in motion. A song replaying itself until it learns the perfect harmony. And perhaps this life, this very moment, is the refrain where the melody finally resolves. We are not the end of the story. We are its echo, its continuation, its remembering breath. Each time you dream of a place you've never been, it might be your soul remembering home. In the end, no one truly disappears. No civilization ever really dies. There are only those who have fallen asleep deeply, and those who have forgotten how to listen to the dream of the earth. For this planet, even as it spins through the cold silence of space, is always whispering. Not in words, but in the breath of mountains, in the murmur of rivers, and in the quiet rhythm within every human heart. If you listen long enough, you can hear everything that has ever been, the footsteps of Homo erectus on dry ground, the hammering of those who raised the pyramids, the songs echoing through ancient caves, and the sighs of cities now sleeping beneath the sea. The earth forgets nothing. Every grain of dust holds a memory. Every drop of water contains an ancient melody. Everything remains, changed in form but never lost, like a dream that shifts its face when morning arrives. Science calls it the cycle of matter. But to the storyteller, it is the immortality of memory. The atoms in your blood were once the ashes of a dying star, once a droplet in a prehistoric ocean, once the breath of creatures who are no more. We are the condensation of everything that has ever happened. When we love, when we fear, when we dream, it is the earth remembering itself through us. Perhaps that is the final secret, that civilization is not made of stone, nor of language, nor of tools, but of continuity, of energy carried forward in the hearts of living things. Each human is a note in the planet's great composition, and life itself is a symphony still unfolding, with no ending, only breaths passed from one generation to the next, from leaf to wind, from wind to heart. If you stand on a mountaintop at night, you can hear the world speaking softly. The rustling of trees, that is the language of plants. The voice of rivers, the memory of water. And the beating within your chest, that is the earth answering, returning your pulse with its own. We are not separate from it. We are the planet's voice made human. And this world, this vast and fragile world, is the heart that beats slowly within the dream of the universe. The ancients knew this. They did not simply observe the stars, they spoke with them. They did not only hear thunder, they listened to the rhythm beneath it. They did not merely live, they resonated. Over millennia, we began to forget. We learned to measure, but not to listen. We spoke endlessly, yet rarely became silent enough to hear the world breathe. But the planet is patient. It does not accuse. It only waits. Each ray of sunlight on the river is an invitation to return. Each passing season is another page in the journal it continues to write. And when science touches mystery, it is not discovery. It is remembrance. The remembering of a consciousness that has never stopped dreaming. Today we speak of frequencies, of fields and magnetism, of resonance between matter and mind. But these are only new names for what the ancients already practiced. They spoke of wind, of rhythm, of spirit. And now that science has learned to listen quietly, it begins to hum in harmony with poetry. Both are saying the same thing, that everything is aware, that everything remembers, that all things are woven together in the endless circle of consciousness. Perhaps, then, we are not descendants of the ancient ones. Perhaps we are them, returned in new bodies to finish the song they began. The stories of stone, of water, of stars are still being written, through our hands, through our voices, through the rhythm of our hearts, as we gaze upward with the same wonder they once felt. If we are quiet enough, we realize the world never ended. It simply changed the way it tells its story. When a human dies, their energy dissolves into air. When a tree falls, its roots turn into words for the next generation. Nothing truly stops. It continues, in a different form. That is why the earth is never lonely. It is filled with whispers, the voices of the past, the murmurs of the present, the dreams of the future, all speaking at once within the same eternal breath. When you touch the ground, you are touching millions of years of memory. When you look at the sky, the light that reaches you is a message from stars that died long ago, but still shine just long enough to say, "We are here." Perhaps what makes humanity unique is not our intelligence, but our ability to hear what no longer speaks. The faint echo of ancestors, the subtle vibration of forgotten feelings, the shiver of recognition when we sense something older than words. All of it, the planet's language, whispered through us. Try it. One quiet night, do nothing, play no music, seek no meaning. Just sit still and listen. You will notice the world never stopped telling its story. It speaks without words, through heartbeat, through light, through dream. And then you will understand. No one ever truly leaves. No civilization ever truly fades. We are all connected by the same breath, the same endless journal the earth continues to write. The question was never, where did they go? The question has always been, can we still hear them? Perhaps the greatest civilization of all is still waiting for us to remember ourselves. The story ends not with a period, but with a breath, a silence where the listener, the storyteller, and the earth all breathe together as one.